薄いのアホ。
プリズムパワーメイクアップオーカードレディー。
Welcome to Shojo and Tell, where we discuss shoujo manga and tell who's hot and who's not, talk about themes, and just generally geek out. Today, June 20th, 2021, we'll be shoujo and telling about the first 8 volumes of Hana-Kimi by Hisaya Nakajo. I'm your host, Ashley McDonald, and I'm joined by Ashley Hawkins. Hello, fellow Ashley.
Hello, fellow Ashley.
Oh my goodness, I feel like this was inevitable because I think we're both around the same age, and I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, Ashley was like the most popular name around this time.
Yeah, thank you. Was it Bold and the Beautiful or Young and the Restless that made it? It's one of those two soap operas, but yeah, it made it inevitable.
I know, yeah. I don't know what my parents were thinking. They're just not creative. They're both Leos. I'm an Aquarius. We have, there's tension. Like, that's okay.
See, I'm an Aquarius too, so
yes.
Oh no.
Aquariuses were just so flighty and creative and whatever, but okay, Ashley,
Yes.
who are you? Besides a person named Ashley, obviously.
So I'm Ashley Hawkins. I am a school librarian in New York City, and that's mainly what my job is. I'm actually a campus librarian, so I serve multiple high schools in Brooklyn. I'm also the animation and illustration collection development supervisor or collection developer for New York City schools. So I'm the person in charge of developing our collection in terms of like animation and illustration. And I also run a YouTube channel for librarians that explains what manga is, and what it like, why they should have it in their libraries and what the purpose of it is and what a lot of terms mean, because I found that as somebody who just was a big manga nerd, I all of a sudden had this big advantage and everybody wanted me to explain things to them. And so I was like, okay, I'll sit down and explain them. And the easiest way to do it was just sit down and record myself because I ran out of energy to write it down. So I did a YouTube channel, and that's kind of what I do. I go around and I evangelize putting manga into your library.
Yeah, so you were like already hip with the cool kids reading the manga and everybody else is slow.
Basically, it's like, I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this since I was 12. What's up with you guys? Why are you taking so long?
Why don't you realize the way to get youths to read is to just give them manga?
Yeah, I'm like, come on, guys. Because I came in and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy everything. And the thing is, like, I am more of a shoujo reader and I always have been. So, like, I came in and I was like, oh, I guess I'll buy, like, the Naruto and the My Hero Academia. But I'm going to make sure I've got all of Fruits Basket, all of Hana-Kimi, all of this, all of my favorite series from when I was a kid. Because also, I want to just sit down and reread them. And, so I had already like this big manga collection that I developed because I had to build my library from the ground up. And so yeah, everybody was like, how do you even know where to find these things? And I'm like, because I read them. They're fun. You should read them too. So
and you're like, this isn't some secret society. Use the internet.
Yeah, just walk into a Barnes and Noble. You'll find so many rows.
Yeah, so many rows now. Oh my goodness. All right, well, we are here today to talk about the first roughly third of Hana-Kimi. I believe it's 23 volumes. That doesn't divide evenly into threes, so math, I don't know. Okay, so we're going to start with the spoiler-free section. Arguably, this whole episode is a spoiler-free section. It's only the first 8 volumes of 23. I don't know. I don't define spoilers for everybody, but this beginning section is definitely spoiler-free. So, fellow Ashley, can you explain what Hana-Kimi is about or give general overview of its like historical significance, I guess?
Yeah, so Hana-Kimi, or Hanazakare no Kimatachie, is a series about a girl named Mizuki who travels from the United States. She's a Japanese American girl who travels from the United States to Japan to go to a Japanese all-boys school to get a boy who she is a fan of his high jumping to high jump again because he has stopped high jumping and she wants to see him high jump in person. So originally her goal is just to make him high jump. And she goes through the trouble of disguising herself as a boy and going to joining his school, even becoming his roommate, all in order to...
A happy accident, I believe. She had
Yeah.
nothing to do with that.
Yeah, it's just so she can be with him and see him high jump. She is that obsessed with seeing him high jump. So it's a pretty crazy premise because it's like, it's not even just that she knew him in Japan. She like travels around the world in order to, because she really likes seeing him high jump.
Yeah, this premise, I was like, who greenlit this? Like, who came up with this and why? I have so many questions, you know?
Yeah, it's such a crazy reason to wind up at an all boys school, like, or wind up in this situation. But I guess it works. I mean, it definitely explains a couple things about Mizuki throughout the series because it makes her like a track superstar and things like that. But
And then it totally forgets that. Like, it's used like once.
so it's like, yeah, every once in a while it remembers like, oh yeah, Mizuki's really fast.
Yeah.
Because she was in track, because she was inspired by Sano to join track. But it also like is a series that's like, that's the premise to get her there. And then it frequently kind of drops that thread because it gets more interested in other things that are happening. So it's just a very wacky story. It's the predecessor to OURAN. Like, I think it's like the most, you can draw the most direct line from Hana-Kimi to OURAN. And I think that is like one of the reasons why it's so interesting to people now is you do want to kind of see like, what is OURAN kind of poking fun at? And it's really Hana-Kimi.
You're like, yeah. OURAN was like, I see all these things that were popular in the 90s, especially Hanakimi, and I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go like satirize, parody that a little bit, and destroy it. Just like, just kill it. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I respect that because Hanakimi feels like, you know, like today's manga is very much more. We've gotten used to long dramas, like interconnected stories. Hanakimi feels like a sitcom where they have to like reset kind of each episode, and like what happened before doesn't really matter. Just doesn't really affect what's going to happen now because they've reset, and then it's like, oh yes, high jumping, that's important. And then you're like, no, it's not. You know, we're not getting anywhere with that plot. That's okay. And notably, yeah, it's basically just all about how long can Mizuki keep up, you know, hiding that she's a girl at an all-boys school. And the truth is, not very long. Sano already knows that, but she doesn't know that he knows that because, you know, drama.
Yeah, Sano figures, like, it's not a spoiler to say that Sano figures out that Mizuki's a girl because it happens within the first chapter. Like,
yeah.
it's,
like, it's very fast.
Like, she gets figured out really quick by him, but then everybody else is very oblivious for whatever reason.
For
for plot reasons.
Plot reasons, yeah. We have to get through, you know, what's 20 minus 8? There's still 14 more volumes or whatever that we have to read. 15 more volumes. This goes on for 23 volumes. I keep waiting for it to just drop the premise and, you know, they get together and like, but no, that hasn't happened yet. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Really? 23 volumes of this? It's fine. Like, we're gonna go. That's okay. Yeah, so we should clarify our level of familiarity with the series. So you recommended doing this, so presumably you've read this before. I will very quickly say that I have not read this before, and everybody do not murder me for not knowing all of the shoujo mangas, okay? I don't know everything. I'm here for the ride, too.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty familiar with this series. Like this was a favorite of mine. I'm really into anything that does gender, anything that plays with gender. I'm always like really interested in. It was even something that I have a background in Shakespearean theory and studies, and that was something that I was really into when I was in that. So anything that plays with gender and has something to do with that has always been like super interesting to me. So this series was like a favorite of mine, and it actually is like what got me into. There are some really popular K dramas, J dramas. There's I've only seen the J drama and the K drama, but there's a Taiwanese drama. There's multiple dramas. It's a very popular one to make into a drama in Asia.
Mm.
So it so I spent a lot of time sitting and watching the live action adaptations, but it's never had an anime, which I think is why it can kind of slide under people's radar. Because
Mm.
anything that doesn't get even like a short adaptation can sometimes float underneath. And it's also like a daunting series because it's 23 volumes. And when you read it, it's actually super dense because so much happens in it. So I think it
Yeah.
can be I think it can be like daunting to people, but it is, yeah, I was super aware of it and super into it. And yeah, it was a very popular series in the Walden books that I used to sit in. So
Yeah. No, my friend who I thought we were like always sharing manga and stuff with, she was like, "You didn't read this, Ashley? I have the whole thing. Where were you?" I'm like, "I don't know. You didn't lend it to me. What's your problem?" Like, you let me down. Yeah, so I guess like what I agree. I also usually really love series that are about playing with gender because like screw you gender, you're so funny. Like why? But would you still recommend this to a modern audience, and like why? Like what's your favorite aspect of the series?
so I think like one of the things I do really like about the series is the wackiness. It is like a very wacky series. Like you said, it's not a manga that takes itself seriously
No.
at any point.
Not at all.
So, and yeah, a lot of shoujo nowadays is like very, very serious and does take itself very seriously, which is good. Like, I read all of those manga, but also, like, it is good to have something that is just very, it's very light and frothy. So I think that's good, but also, I mean, you know, I think there's a genuine thread of that goes through the series of there's a genuine, your true self and loving the person for their true self. But there is like all this weird biological essentialist stuff of like Mizuki can't truly hide that she's a girl because she's just inherently a girl, which maybe is because she is a cisgender girl, and maybe that's maybe what they're getting at is that,
Yeah.
but it's very hard to parse out what exactly is being said sometimes. And some of it, it's like, I don't know if it's the translation. I don't know if it's, but yeah, there's some stuff that I think can be for some like I wouldn't if I knew a student was like really grappling with their gender identity, I wouldn't hand this series to them. I would hand them OURAN first, um, before I handed this one.
Yeah.
Um, or there are way better things. I would probably hand them Boys Run the Riot before I handed them either of those.
I was like, yeah.
But you know, there's there is like some stuff that I think if you're really questioning your gender identity could be like maybe a little painful that are said by some characters just about how there's this unimpeachable way of being. But like I said, it's kind of hard to parse out like because Mizuki really isn't a trans boy. She's just performing this in order to, I mean, get for a very heteronormative reason to get close to the boy that she likes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but it is a very progressive series for its time. I mean, there are a lot of bi, pansexual, and gay characters, although we'll get into how that plays out too.
Yeah, like there are some good things about it. Yeah, I'm like they exist. Other characters within the story don't like them and they do some questionable things. But they're there and they're not like shown to be bad for sure. Like, there's just like, yeah, this is how these people are. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it still has value. I think there's a reason why it hasn't been discontinued or put completely out of print. But I would like to see a new translation. I would like to see like Rachel Thorne or Leo McDonough. I'd like to see a trans translator translate this series as opposed to what I believe is a cis straight white guy. I think that would be really cool because I think a lot of terms and things are also super dated. So
Yeah. I also, in terms of the translation, I think the part where I noticed it was like I should possibly question it was actually when one of the characters was speaking German. And I was like, okay, I took German in high school. Pretty sure that's not what two of those phrases like directly translate to. Like maybe they do, but like I was just like, like maybe that's the equivalent of it in English, but it's not actually what it said in German, And I was like, I don't know how much I trust this now.
yeah, I wonder if they actually translated because I think they're taking what was put actually in the
I know.
Japanese
Then
manga.
I was like, so did she translated what she thought it meant and then they translated that? And I was like, I don't know. That's possible.
Because if they did that, then that can really get you. Then you're through like a couple layers of
I
translation.
know. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happened just because I think that's what gets me about this manga. I'm like, okay, so this is a manga written by what I presume is a cisgendered, heterosexual Japanese lady about a Japanese American. There's a lot of stuff about America and gender. She's mostly trying to write about boys. I'm like, this is a lot. It's a lot to take in, Like, and there are editors, and like, I'm just like, all right, my brain can't really like parse all the layers of things happening here, but it's a lot. That's all I can say about that. Yeah, and that's a good point about the. It has a bunch of like live action dramas, but no anime, because I do think that that's the part in Japan, they're like live action series are more reputable, just like in America, right? Like more people are going to watch live action things than cartoons. But in America, in terms of anime and Japanese dramas, like we're like, no, it needs an anime or it's like not real, right? Like anime or nothing. So I could see why it flew under my radar then. Yeah. All right. But as you said, Hanakimi has not been like put out of commission anytime soon. It's still readily available, unlike some other series I've been doing on this podcast recently. Hana-Kimi is available from Viz Media in North America. I was actually able to find it both physically and digitally at my library, which I was kind of shocked because my library is not a city library. I live in a suburb of New Jersey. Like I was like, all right, cool for you, suburb of New Jersey.
Yeah, like we have it actually. Like we have it in my library. Like I brought home our physical volumes because I'm back in my library now, and we also have it digitally for if you're a New York City student or member of New York City staff. We have it available for everyone. So it's a very accessible. Viz makes things very accessible. So Viz titles, I think, just tend to be in libraries more frequently.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the spoiler section. Again, I don't define what a spoiler is for you. If you're like, what happens in the first 8 volumes doesn't really matter overall to the plot, you'd be correct probably. And so you can listen to this and maybe you don't listen to the next 2 episodes. I don't know. Or you stop now and you go read 23 volumes of Hana-Kimi and have fun. we are definitely going to get into some nitty-gritty things. But not all the nitty-gritty things, because a lot does happen, and I bet we will not touch on, as I said before recording this, like 60% of the scenes, and for that, you need a dedicated Hanakimi podcast. Go for it, children. Make a dedicated Hanakimi podcast.
You really could.
You could! Do it. Other people. Okay, so we'll start off. There are 50 kajillion characters. So I just want to talk about the ones who, I believe it was in volume 6 or 7, there was a character poll. There was like a character poll that happened in volume 1, and I'm dismissing that. We're going to go with the most recent character poll of the volumes that we read. And we'll discuss the top 6 entries. Again, there were like 30 characters listed. I'm like, I don't have time for that. So we're going to go with the top 6. In first place, I want to say it's shocking, but like it makes sense in this series, but I feel like it doesn't normally happen in other shoujo series that the female protagonist is first place. So Mizuki was first place, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of surprised actually.
Yeah, I think it maybe has to do with she's a little bit different than your usual shoujo manga character, or protagonist, I should say. She's a little bit more like aggressive and like, in your face. Like, I love how she's like super like ready to go at any point. Like she's ready. She's ready to like, especially if you say anything about Sano high jumping. She's just
she's like, I will fight you. Yeah, she does a good job of towing the line of like, embracing that kind of more boyish like confidence, and knowing what she's doing, but mixing it with the pure-hearted, maiden girly stuff where she's like, I just know that Sano is really good and a good boy, and I will defend him with my purity and everything. And I'm like, all right, I respect you. I wish you got to be a cool track star still, but I respect you.
Like every once in a while she gets to get in there, and like at the cultural festival when she gets to win the relay. She has her victory moments. Like she gets to be kind of like their secret weapon. Like, oh, if we need to run, we just need to throw Mizuki in there, and boom, first place.
Yeah, if we need somebody who looks like a girl and is very pretty, Mizuki, it's just like, oh, Mizuki's like, just a real solid overall pick here. I'm just trying to be like, I do like Mizuki. She's not like my favorite protagonist of all time, but I'm like, yeah, I respect this girl. She has the right amount again of like tomboyish moments where she gets to actually kick butt to like damsel in distress, oh no, Sano has to save her moments, right? As would come with being a girl among many boys.
Yeah, he has to constantly if Sano wasn't around and didn't know her secret, everybody would have known her secret within 2 days. Like he does protect her from everybody else finding out, because she just frequently forgets and is kind of mindless about this secret that she's supposed to keep. like just, oh, I'm just gonna lift up my shirt real quick, or I'm gonna forget that I'm not supposed to go in the pool, or just all these frequent things of just forgetting and making statements that everybody kind of pauses and goes, wait, what? And then Sano has to like do some sort of distraction tactic.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, this really reveals that Mizuki is not a trans boy, because like, in some ways I read it and I'm like, oh, this manga gets a lot right about what it is, like what the trans experience is like. Like, my partner is trans, so I see these things happen. It's like, yeah, swimming, really difficult, until you get like surgery usually. Yeah, so there's tons of ways, like periods, very like pain point in more ways than one for most trans female to male people, and I'm just like, yeah, that's all correct. But Mizuki is just like, not thinking about it that way. She's just like, oh yeah, I'm a girl, so this happens. La-di-da, you know? Just like, no, Mizuki. I think I struggle too because, you know, shoujo manga is always like with these stories about women who are pretending to be men and they get revealed as women. There's always kind of like, it's portrayed positively, right? Like the men who find out that they are actually a woman are then like, oh yes, okay, great, I'm not gay or whatever, you know, like, oh, this is awesome. My friend is female, like that changes something, but positively. And I'm just like, I don't know. In situations like when I played ice hockey with men, in situations where they thought I was a dude, but then found out I was a lady, that usually made them mad. Like, they usually did not like that. They were like, oh no, a weak girl, no wonder, you know? Like,
Yeah, I guess it's in the context of like it's solving, I mean, I guess because it solves their gay panic. There's
it
the
does solve their
relief.
gay panic. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think in real life it would be way more complicated to find out, like, oh, my roommate, first off, is kind of stalking me and
Yeah,
is.
what? He doesn't Sano doesn't care about that at all.
It's like she doesn't have. So this is a big difference between the J drama and the manga, because in the J drama, Mizuki is actually the reason why Sano gets injured. He protects
Whoa.
her from a big bad American gang and gets stabbed in the Achilles tendon, and
Wow.
that's how he gets, you know, that's how he becomes injured, and that's how he can't high jump anymore. So she feels personally responsible, and that's why she comes to Japan. So there's like a more firm reason in the drama for her to be over there. But in the manga, it's really just, I really like this guy and really want to see him high jump. And
Yeah.
it's like, girl, you can't just go over there and do all these wacky things. This is actually kind of crazy behavior.
I'm also just like, how did she manage to like change her gender on forms that were necessary? You know, I have many questions. Like, this manga is not concerned with those questions. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah, like that should have been at some point like explained, maybe like just the differences between American and Japanese documents created this. But no, it's not even explained in that way. It's just like she just successfully tricked an entire school into thinking she's a boy
Yeah,
because reasons.
yeah, because she's flat chested. You know, that's that's all you need. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we should transition to Sano, but first I want to say I wanted to try to give like a shining moment to each character, but I'm just like Mizuki doesn't have like a big moment. I feel where I was like, yes, Mizuki, wahaha. But Mizuki's like the character that you always want to have in your corner again. Like you're like, yes, solid friend makes you a better person. Woo, awesome. Maybe Mizuki gets better moments later. I wouldn't know. I haven't read this before. Okay, but yes, Sano. So Mizuki is very lucky to go to school and then have Sano, who is a very good boy, like
Yes.
be her roommate. That's really it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, any of the other boys would not have her back the way that Sano does, and would not be as so respectful and
So respectful.
like of everything, of just like giving her certain space and just letting her sleep in his bed
Yeah. Not touching her
constantly.
inappropriately. He gives her so much space. He gives her space to make mistakes that he knows are mistakes, but he's like, well, I can't convince her that they're mistakes, so I'm just gonna let her make it, and then I'll come save her after that with like Makita like trying to like rape her. And I was like, wow, I mean, like, that's actually surprisingly mature for this silly manga.
Yeah, like he really does, like, and yeah, that was like such a total turn for this very lighthearted, like all of a sudden there's like this predator guy just lurking over several chapters of just, and Sano knows he's up to no good, but he also knows like Mizuki's gonna be Mizuki.
Yeah.
So just okay, I'll be here.
Yeah, he's like, don't worry, I won't let him actually do anything to you. I'm like, I respect that.
But yeah, he's such a good boy. I think it only works with him, like I said, as the roommate, because yeah, it only works with him being a really good boy.
Yeah, yeah. Otherwise, it would be like a manga that we don't all want to read again because it would be like, ooh, that's just like highly problematic now, you know? But yeah, I also find it. I mean, we were just talking about his accident, which like he does have an accident in this manga, and that's very shoujo manga of it. But I like that it happens. I kind of like that it happens like off screen before the series even starts. It's just like big dramatic accident. Yeah, you don't need to know. He's fine physically, psychologically. It's all psychological, and I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks, manga.
Yeah, it's like it's in the past. He's like moved past it, but there was an accident, and you know he's dealing with it.
He's dealing with it slowly but surely. Will he high jump again, though? Will this become important again? I don't know.
Every few chapters,
Every
he'll make a little progress. He'll do a little bit of jumping because Mizuki's there to just kind of further the plot a little bit, but not too much. We don't want to further it too much, so don't high jump too high.
Yeah. We got to take one step forward and then fall flat on our faces as we got to hit the bar while we high jump. Oh no, reset, do it again. I'm like, yeah.
And yeah, now I think he's at the point where he's high jumped, but he's not beating his records.
Right. He's successfully doing it, but they're like, all right, but you're just a shadow of your old self.
So it's like, oh, well, we're showing that Mizuki is pushing him to do his thing, but he's not quite there yet. He hasn't grown into the super high jumper that he once was.
Yeah, but Mizuki still really respects him because she's like, well, his form is still the most beautiful out of everybody's. And I'm like, all right, Mizuki, all right. I see you, girl. I do think that Sano's shining moment for me was really like him dealing with Makita during the summer vacation arc in which they're all working at Io's like vacation place and they're all helping out and they're like, she has this skeezy employee. And I feel like overall I was like, I'm just genuinely shocked at how pretty okay this manga handled something that was much more serious than its other fare.
Yeah. It handled it with like a certain level of seriousness and like this is not okay, and he got punished, he was fired. No more summer job for you. So, and no more creeping on, although he should have been fired way before that
He
because
should have been fired before that, yeah.
he was clearly creeping on every girl. Like, and you now have like half the school coming to help you. So, come on.
Yeah.
Get rid of
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah, I was almost like, I wish she could have gone to the police, and like she probably could have, but I mean, that's a whole. This manga's not going to go that far, like.
Well, also it would expose that she's a girl probably because
Oh,
of
that's true.
the way that Japan handles such cases.
Yeah, so there was difficulty, but like overall, I was like, good on you, Sano, good on you, manga. I'm surprised. Good job. Oh boy, now we have to get to third place character, who I think is like secretly everybody's favorite character, but like, and like I understand it to a degree, and otherwise I'm like, no, but okay. So it is Umeda, who is the school doctor. He is, I think he's only 27 years old. He is the uncle of one of the students, Nanba, at the school, and he is openly gay. And all of that is fine. I think he like on the one he gives the best advice. He's so chill. He's like he because he's gay and he's, you know, persecuted in certain ways for that, or like people look at him with prejudice and everything. He's like, I know that everything is garbage and we like people's preconceptions of you can't change them and they're garbage. So like whatever, it's your life, like YOLO, live it, you know, like so all of his advice ends up being really awesome. But then it's also like, why is Nakajo like drawing him in these purposely salacious ways? And I'm like, I didn't need this, you know, like I don't need him having sex in the hot spring on their school trip. No. Why?
And his just random stripping at various points. It's like he doesn't need to be hypersexualized just because he's gay. And it's such a contradiction because he when he's serious, he is like such a strong, great character. He gives, like you said, such wonderful advice. The things he says are like filled with like such wisdom. And then next panel, he'll be taking all his clothes off and be surrounded by feathers and sparkles. And
yeah. And he'll be like, I don't do it with students, though. And it's like, okay, it's like the moral boundary is only don't do it with students. Like, I don't know if that's enough for me, you know?
But even that kind of gets teased with because then he starts doing chiropractics on all the karate boys.
The chiropractics. Oh, how could I forget? Yeah, he's doing chiropractics on the karate guys. And it's just like, okay. And he does strip in front of Mizuki, and I'm like, why? Because you know she's a girl and you're gay? Like, it doesn't... No.
Yeah, it's still not okay. She's still a student. You shouldn't be taking your clothes off in front of her.
Yeah. So I'm just like, ugh. And like, I wish he was everybody's favorite character because he gives such good advice. But I feel like he's everybody's favorite character because he does these salacious things. Mm-hmm. And then everybody, you know, like, gets all hype about them and writes dirty fan fiction or whatever, you know?
Yeah. No, I think, like, especially because if we're thinking about the time that these volumes were coming out in Japan and, like, this poll would have happened in Japan, this would have been, like, the 90s, like, 98-ish, 90, 99.
Yeah.
So it would have been, like, that would have been, like, the height of, like, those type of characters being very popular. And just like, ooh, he's like a treat for us. He's the wacky, salacious gay man.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, this is the part that hasn't aged super well.
This is the part that hasn't aged super well. And like, it does really explain some things about OURAN in terms of like Haruhi's dad, right? Like, I'm like, okay, if this is where it's like getting some parody stuff, I'm like, okay, I can understand, right? How we got here.
Yeah.
But yeah, just overall, it just makes me be like, ugh, like in a lot of ways, it's probably good that BL and Shojo like diverged soon after, like in the 2000s, you know, they became their own things usually. And I'm like, perhaps that's for the best.
Yeah. Because, yeah, he is kind of there to feed the BL fans because he's there to kind of like give you a little taste of it. Like, ooh, yeah. there's a little for you.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, this is a queer manga. And I'm like, it's not a queer manga. It's just a queer, it's a manga disguising itself as a queer manga.
It's a manga that has some queer elements. But yeah, at its heart, it's very super hetero. Super
duper hetero. But yes, I think my shining moment for Umeda is one of this. I think it's bookended by him not being serious at all. But in this one moment of seriousness, in volume like 7 or 8. He's talking to Mizuki about what it's like to be gay, and he's just like opens up about that truthfully, and he says, I've been like this as long as I can remember. If someone asks me what's it like, I have a hard time answering. It's just like a relationship between a guy and a girl, only it's two people of the same sex. When you fall in love with someone, it's only natural that you want to be closer to them. And I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, those moments of like saying statements like that are like, yes, this is really wonderful, great stuff.
Yes, snap, 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 you know?
This is what people need to hear. These are the affirming things that are, worthwhile. But then you go and you do something.
Yeah, and
You
then he
ruin it.
goes and he takes off his shirt and he just kisses a person right in front of his students. And I'm like, stop. Not appropriate. Okay, so in fourth place was Nakatsu, who I don't think we've brought up too much so far, but he is ostensibly being the key word here, the love rival for Mizuki's heart against Sano, and I'm just like, it's cute that not Nakatsu, thinks that.
Oh, he's so I really love Nakatsu, and he's he goes through a lot. Like I think it's because it's towards I think he's so low at this point because he hasn't had that moment. I don't think he hasn't had the moment where he has the shift of like, you want to know what? I don't care. I'm just in love with Mizuki. It doesn't matter. I'm not even going to bother with worrying all my gay panic, because for the first few volumes, his gay panic is over the top.
Oh, so much gay panic.
And it's like, okay, dude, I get it. It's a lot to take in that all of a sudden you find one of your friends super hot, but you're focusing way too much on the fact that you're worried about whether or not you're gay, as opposed to worrying about your feelings. And it's when he makes that shift to like, I'm just going to focus on my feelings, that it's like, oh, you're a good boy.
He's a good boy.
You can turn around and just say, you know what, I just like you, and I'm just going to try and get your attention. And Sano, move out of the way.
Yeah. I think I'm struggling right now with him though, not because he intrinsically did anything bad. Like, he's a good boy. I think he's a very sweet boy. He's he's like the silly kind of stupid one. I don't want to say stupid, but like, the silly, like, yeah, just silly. Like, plays soccer, sporty, like more stereotypically sporty one. He gets hit in the head repeatedly in soccer. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So like, fine. And so I don't think that there's anything wrong with his character necessarily, except his over the top gay panic in the beginning in the first like 3 volumes or whatever. But I'm just like, overall, I'm like, why is he here? Like, he's not a serious competitor at this point, as far as I can see, for Mizuki's heart, because she doesn't give him that time. But she's just like, he's just a good friend. And he's all like, I love you. And she's like, no, he's still just my good friend. And I'm just like, all right. It's just like, there's no moment for her where she like even remotely thinks of the possibility that like, ooh, maybe Nakatsu would be like a cool boy to date too. Like not giving up on Sano, but like, oh no, my heart is torn. No, there's like no moment of like that. I'm just like, why is he here? What's he doing?
Yeah, he doesn't stand a chance, is really what it comes down to. Like, she's very monogamous. She's like, I have my eyes fixated on this guy, and she's just, yeah. And it would be kind of nice if she would kind of have that, but the manga doesn't really even consider letting her explore, like, oh wow, this guy actually likes me just for me. He doesn't even worry about what my gender is. That's kind
Yeah.
of like, I think for most girls, that would actually be like, whoa, a little bit of a doki doki moment.
Yeah, a little bit, right? No, not here. And I'm just like, I guess because there are so many characters, I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna really need to see how this Nakatsu plot line plays out. Because right now I'm just like, I don't feel like I need this character, in this manga. Like I feel like I'm good, even though he's a good boy.
Yeah, and we haven't even, like, spoiler alert, we get more and we start to learn more about all of these other characters, and it gets to be quite the ensemble piece.
There's so many. Oh my god. I'm just like, well, yeah, we're not even gonna bring up like half of them because there's just too many. Like, too much. But yes, for me, the moment where I was like, okay, I like Nakatsu well enough was again in the summer. I guess I like that summer vacation arc, even though like I'm like, I don't know why of all the arcs that one I keep going back to, but I really liked when he was hanging out with, oh god, Kagurazaka's little sister. Kagurazaka is Sano's rival in high jumping. Who was staying at the inn or whatever that they were working for the summer. And yeah, I just really liked, showing that soft boy sweet side. I was like, yeah, show it to me, Nakatsu.
Yeah, that was a really sweet moment. For me, the shining moment was when he made that transition to, like, when he gave up his gay panic. Like, that was
Thank you. Yeah.
That was like, oh yeah, there we go. I love that. But yeah, it's also just super sweet to see him. He's a nice, sweet boy. Like, honestly, like, when I watched the drama, the actor who plays him is like my favorite of the actors in that series. So I think that's also maybe why I have like a soft Nakatsu spot, because I really like the actor. So it's like maybe that also like is like, oh. But yeah, I don't know. He stands no chance. Poor boy.
I actually do. I kind of liked that his giving up of the gay panic happened after he had accepted, going out with another girl. Like, I expected that to get dragged out more than it was. That only lasted a couple chapters where he's going out with this nice, sweet girl who's perfectly fine, well enough. And then he's just like, no, but I can't just, forget about Mizuki, so it's not fair to this girl. So he dumps her, and then it's just like, I love you, Mizuki. And I was like, okay, I respect you. For sure. Okay, I guess in fifth place is Problematic Man number 2, related to Problematic Man number 1. Nanba.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nanba is the nephew of Dr. Umeda, and he is portrayed as a very ladies' man, playboy type. I don't think that always holds up, but I feel like it was there in the beginning. Then it had a middling period where I was like, he's not really like that. Like when they were doing the school festival, I was like, nah, he's fine. And then it went back to that, and I was like, okay, sure. Fine. And yeah, so the source of his problems come from the fact that when he was 14, I believe, he was dating his college-aged tutor. And when I say dating, I mean banging a lot.
Yeah. Oh
No.
Yeah. So, and the way it's framed, it's like, to me, I'm like, oh no, child, you were molested and you have trauma, and that's why you attach to women incorrectly. But yeah, it's framed as like he had this beautiful romance.
Yeah, he had like this grand romance beyond his years, right? Like that's how it's portrayed. And I was like, yo, I legit got to see him sucking titty in this manga. Like, what is up? What? This side story is bananas. I was so shocked. My innocent little eyes, like I know. And again, I actually think that Nanba, when he's being serious, is one of the greater characters. Like, again, his life advice is actually very good because he's seen stuff, right? Like,
yeah, he gives Mizuki really good advice too.
Yeah. But then otherwise I'm like, no, but Nanba, no.
Yeah, especially his interactions with Julia, which luckily Julia can handle, but it's like, oh my dude, why are you like this?
I know. I think I hate it now because I used to be like, I definitely wrote an Escaflowne fan fiction that was kind of like the dynamic of Nanba and Julia. And in case people haven't read it in a while, Julia is Mitsuki's like good best American friend who comes to do an exchange program for a short stint, so she gets to meet all the boys. And Nanba's like, "Ooh, a blonde babe. I'm gonna try to put the moves on her." And Julia's all like, "I do not like you. Do not touch me. I punched you and I stepped on your foot. And no, you know." But like, I definitely used to be into this, like, ooh, they seem like they don't like each other, but secretly they really do. And when they get down to it, they see that they really like each other. And now I'm like, no, I'm tired,
Yeah,
I'm gonna stop.
I can't remember how. Honestly, I can't remember how this plays out, but I like that in the volumes we're in, it's like Julia just has no time for it. Like, just no, not interested. Bye, get out of here.
Yeah, and he keeps playing like she doesn't straight up tell him no, and I'm like, dude, she definitely did though. Like, what? Nanba, I want to like you more than I do. You and your slightly skeevy but kind of nice long hair,
Yeah, he has. I know that he has more growth ahead of him and more shining. He has more ahead of him.
Okay, he grows up a bit. That's good.
Yeah,
I'm very excited to go on the journey that is 23 volumes of Hana-Kimi. Woo. But yeah, actually, my shining moment for him is in the current arc that we're in. So they went on the school trip because you got to have your school trip arc. They go to Hokkaido, specifically Sapporo and Otaru. And while they were there, they let some girls take a picture. It was Nanba, Nakatsu, and Sano. Took a very boy band looking photo for some girls. And they posted in a quote unquote girls rag. And they won like hottest boys. And now there are so many girls coming to their school and like looking for them and squealing and being groupies like they're the Beatles or something. They're the Backstreet Boys. I'm old.
so am I.
Or BTS. There we go. Yeah, and so now they're getting scolded by a teacher that nobody likes, who's a real hard ass, I guess. And Nanba's like, "Why are you yelling at us? This is not our fault. Like, there's no reason for you to punish us in this way. You have not given us a chance to like really correct the situation. So like, stop." And I'm like, yes, good boy, Nanba's here.
Yeah, that's kind of the hint of like what is going to kind of be the build for Nanba, because he has like a role as the rep for their dorm that actually allows him to be much more mature, and it's good for him. It's a good role for him.
Oh, right. He's the RA. Very appropriate RA. Totally trust him. Yes.
I mean, I guess it's fine because it's an all-boys school.
It's fine because it's an all-boys. Boys will be boys. Yes, great. Okay. And then in sixth place is my favorite character, Yujiro, the dog. I love him. He's a good boy.
Yeah, he's super cute. I like that he really does serve a good purpose in the plot. Like he moves plot along every once in a while. He's used very effectively.
Yeah. I love that Nakajo is like, I'm just drawing a dog from memory. I've never had a dog. I haven't looked at books of pictures of dogs. I have a cat. And I'm just like, it's okay. He's drawn like he's a dog in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Again, I'm old. So, his eyes, I'm like, oh yes, this is from a different time. This is from a different era.
Yeah, he's a very cartoony looking dog.
Yeah, there are like specific panels where she tries to draw him with real eyes, and I'm like, no, why? Why? Stop. I want my Hanna-Barbera dog. I want Scooby-Doo. Gosh. Yes, and I think his shining moment is literally all of them anytime he is there. It's a precious moment.
That's his whole purpose, is to be the shining good boy. To fix everybody's mood. He always makes everybody happier. He brings them together. He's also like the facilitator of, the moments where Sano and Mizuki are like thrust together. So he enables the shoujo manga moments. He's a good device.
He usually only likes girls, but then he also likes Sano because Sano's the one who rescued him. And I'm like, I see. So we only like 2 people in the storm. And guess what? It's the ship. It's the item. But yes, I love that dog. And I'm so glad that like he keeps ranking so highly in polls. I love it. I cannot wait to see how long that lasts. Anyway, so this next section, we got some listener questions / comments. There were actually more, but I'm going to save. I think there were 2 other ones. I will save those for later recordings where we've read more of the series so we can give better answers. But I think that there are 2 that we can touch on now because, I mean, maybe the series will improve on it. I don't know, but I think they're relevant to the first 8 volumes for sure. So the first is from Lumrama Yasha on Twitter, which was, how do you feel about the series' use of the trope of a boy crushing on a cross-dressing girl and the ensuing not gay panic humor? We have definitely touched on this a bit. It's not great. It's like, but I think my bigger problem with it is that it just feels like the series can't decide if it's concerned more about gender and the ways that we present that and the ways that that is relevant or not to people's lives, and like where the line between gender and sexuality is. Like, is it more about sexuality and like people embracing that? No, it's not, because like it's inevitably about hetero couples, except for Umeda being his gay self, letting his freak flag fly over there or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't, it's tiresome. It's definitely tiresome. And like all great shoujo manga, it mostly leaves it in the first couple of volumes. It leaves all its problems in the first couple of volumes as it smooths out. And I'm like, yes. Leave the silly premises behind. Go with the good stuff.
Yeah, I actually went and read an article about it called Queering Heteronormativity, Biological Essentialism in Gender Bending Manga from Anime Feminist by Chris Avila, who's a non-binary writer. And that like helped me frame things, because I like to make sure I like read things from people who like identify in certain ways so that I make sure I'm like framing my own mind. And yeah, it's like there's definitely a lot to unpack, but also like it made me feel a little better too, because they definitely were like, Hana-Kimi's better than other series at doing this and working through these things, but still it's a lot to unpack and it's a lot.
Yeah. Like, inevitably, again, I do think that Hana-Kimi, for its time, is certainly like, wow, so progressive, right? Like,
yeah.
We are only spoiled because we live, 20 plus years in the future from where it started, and we're like, all right, we've learned some things. We've had OURAN, we've gone even beyond OURAN. We know things, right? Like,
yeah, we've grown as a manga community. We
yeah,
now have things that are like, written by people within the community that actually like, there's more to it than just this, but this was a good jumping off point that enabled us to get to that point. So
yeah,
that, and I wish like certain things weren't there, but they were also, I mean, at the same time, I think a cis het boy feeling feelings for one of his friends probably would go through a certain level of gay panic, and particularly a Japanese boy, because they're not especially in the 90s, they're not super progressive over there. And it would be, we do have to kind of think about those things of like, it is in some ways a bit of a reflection of what goes on in a teenage boy's mind is going to be some panicking, and it's not great that it gets harped on so much, but it is going to be there, I think.
yeah. Well, at least it makes sense. Like, you're always gonna have, like a bit of turmoil, right? Like, as long as we have a normal default being heteronormativity, there's always going to be like an oh no, am I gay moment, I think. We haven't quite gotten beyond that as far as I know, but like.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish it weren't framed as like, I wish there weren't the moment where Umeda was like, he's just reacting to your inherent femininity. I wish it weren't dismissed that way and weren't like maybe looked at as this might be something more complex, because Mizuki is presenting as a boy, as sloppy her presentation can sometimes be. She is presenting as a boy and is in a context of being a boy. So there might be some fluidity to Nakatsu that he might have to at some point kind of think about.
Yeah, right? It was like, maybe he's bi,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that like inherent femininity, like gaydar thing that Umeda has going on. I think also I want to like, it's just like there are two instances where this comes up, right? It's like Umeda has a gaydar that helps him sense gender, right? Like, okay, fine. Sure. But then also Yujiro is used in a similar way where it's like, well, Yujiro is an animal who can just doesn't know the rules of politeness, doesn't care about clothes and all that garbage, right? Like he's just like, I'm gonna sniff your crotch and know that you're a girl, right? Like that's, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. So there's always this like, but if we stripped off all the presentation, then like our sex is what really matters and not the gender. And I'm like, no, but like all of that just improves that it's all a presentation. Like, like, ugh, I don't know. Like you had to
Yeah.
use special like sonar, radar, like, like X-ray machines to figure this out.
Yeah. It's like it's all constructs. It's all
And like, yeah, as I guess I do want to read the author's note from, again, it's like volume 8, 7 or 8, where it makes it very clear that this is written by a cis lady who like didn't even really do any research into what it would be like for queer people at all, especially trans people. So the note was the riddle of the breastband. And Nakajo said, whenever I mention the vest Mizuki wears to hide her chest, people ask, where do they sell those? But it's actually my invention and it doesn't really exist. Sorry. I get mail from girls in bands who are male impersonators and actresses who play male roles saying, tell us. I don't really know, but my friend said they probably sell those in female to male transvestite shops. Duh, makes sense. I look forward to hearing from someone who can tell me whether breast brands really do exist. And then, as like an extra side note, is transvestite the right word to say? I'm sorry if I offended anyone. And I was like, oh, this note was a lot. Like, you know.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. So, you know. Yeah. Um, First off, that's probably like that's one of those things where it's like I kind of wish there was a new localization of this because that word is gonna hurt people when they read it. Which I think that is the word she meant. I think it was probably translated pretty literally,
Mm.
but it's like oof. I think maybe it could be put a different way. I don't know, but oh yeah, there's a lot going on there. You could have done a little. I know Google wasn't as big as it is now, but you could do research back then on the internet. I had the internet then.
Yeah, we had libraries still, you know. Like, come on. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so there was just like no real research or anything, and I'm just like, no, you definitely didn't invent binders, you know. Like, no, those things definitely existed. Yeah, but like even not doing research, right? It's like again, it actually gets a lot of the big pain points right. Like again, having binders being annoying. That's a whole subplot arc at one point where it's like, oh, it was too tight and it made Mizuki faint. I don't know that it would make you faint, but definitely, again, my partner sometimes is like, hey, I need to go change clothes because this is too stifling and it's just the two of us. I don't have to like present around you, right? Like, you just know. And I'm like, cool. I don't care.
Yeah.
Swimming. I actually really liked. Well, I wouldn't say I liked it, but I was like, yes, this manga almost got there. In the one scene on the summer vacation arc where they're working, and what's Kagurazaka's like older sister, but who's still younger than them, who really likes Sano, is like getting changed into her bathing suit, and Mizuki walks into the room and opens the door and is like, oh no, I saw her in her underwear, right? And then she's like, no, it's okay, it's my bathing suit. And I'm like, yes. Because bathing suits are just underwear but in different material, and that's okay apparently, you know, like bikinis. Like, what's the difference? You know, it's like, it doesn't, just everything about it is like you almost saw how it's all garbage, you know. Like,
yeah,
so gross. I'm just like, Mizuki could go swimming in her clothes, like with a shirt on, you know, like people would think it's weird, but you could do it.
yeah. She was on the beach in like a very similar garb to what Haruhi wears in OURAN.
Oh
when
yeah,
they go to the. It's like almost the exact same outfit, actually.
the like short sleeve hoodie thing and like shorts or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the same exact outfit of just like, okay, this is what girls dressed as boys have to wear when they're at the beach. It's this outfit.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And like, yeah, all the problems of Mizuki concealing her gender only come from like the fact that she is, as Namba, I think, put it at one point, you know, like the one flower in a sea of boys. Like, she's the only girl in the sea of boys. So, like, it's like, ooh, you got to be real careful, right? But it's like, normally people don't notice all these things. Like, in normal life, you see somebody, you look at them, you look at how they present, and then you just, like, assume that's their gender or something. Like, you know, like, nobody's, like, nitpicking all these details about everybody. This isn't, like, CSI or what, CIS or whatever, you know, like. Ugh. That's how I feel overall about it. I'm just like, ugh, people only care because they're trying so hard to look for the details that make us different, even though we're like 99% the same.
Yeah.
Oh, and it only matters in this manga because everything is segregated. Even when they meet up with other schools, they're always segregated by gender. And I'm like, Japan has co-ed school. Like, what?
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Yeah, everything's like, and whenever there are other girls, if they're not, specifically related in some way to one of the main characters, they're just like an amorphous blob of girls.
Yeah, just girls from elsewhere. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Okay. But the second thing I wanted to touch on from listeners was from @smallpenguin8 on Twitter. They said, I love Hana-Kimi. I remember reading it and laughing out loud in the first chapter. I was a little disappointed that Julia and Shizuki, Shizuki is Mizuki's brother, were so stereotypically American, quote unquote American, loud, straightforward, extroverted, blonde, etc., considering how diverse the US is. And oh my gosh, yeah, the things about America in here, I was like, I don't. How can I trust anything about gender if this is what you think of America? Just like, I tweeted the one that was like, in America, most tests are open notebook. And I was like, that's really news to me. Did I go to a very hard school where like very rarely were this test open notebook? Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, all my former students wish.
Yeah, right? I'm just like, no.
Yeah, no. Yeah, there's so many wacky things, and it's like, where did you get this? Like, some of them are not even things that would be like pulled from television or movies or anything like that, like the open notebook thing.
Yeah, I was like, where would we get this stereotype? I don't know.
Like, did she know somebody who went on exchange and like just happened to go to like the easiest high school in America?
Yeah, like that feels like something that one person told her, and she was just like, "Yep, I take that as a fact." And I'm like, no, like, not at all. I think very early in the beginning, there's a line referring to Mizuki, just saying whatever. That was like raised in America, where "say what's on your mind" is the national motto, and I was like, I mean. Okay, I can like accept that one, like fine. In the side story about Mizuki running away and meeting Gilbert in the woods and living with him for a while, her first love, who was styled after Leonardo DiCaprio. He's like, you passed out from hunger? This is America, not the third world. And I'm like, that says a lot more actually about there's like a lot going on in that scene, right? Like, I was like, first of all, wealth inequality in America is very high. It's getting higher. It wasn't as bad, in the 90s, but like high, So I was like, no. Also, why you gotta slam the rest of the world like this? Unnecessary. We don't need this. Like, people be hungry everywhere. It's unfortunate. Unrelated, but like kind of related. But like, my friends and I last weekend have been talking about Titanic for some reason and like looking it up, and I was like, whoa, Titanic first debuted at the Tokyo Film Festival in whatever 1996 or whatever, when that came out, 1997, and it got like mixed reviews from the Japanese viewers, but then of course obviously became this big smash in America. And so I really loved her author's note where she was like, I love Leonardo DiCaprio in most things, but in Titanic it's like anybody could have played his role in Titanic. I don't understand. Am I supposed to be crying at this romance? And I was like, yes, this is the content I came for.
Dragged.
Ooh, but my favorite American drag in this manga was actually in just like, I think it was a summary for the next volume. I forget what volume it was, like volume 7 or something. And it just starts with, like any American, Julia can't help but interfere in foreign affairs. And I was like, oh, we throwing down right now. Like, yo. My gosh. But yes, to address the original comment, like, yeah, it's pretty annoying that, like, if they were both white, I would find that fine. Like, I would get it, right? Like, but they're both blonde and like blue-eyed, and I'm like, what is this? No. Is this like This is some other country, not America, you know? Like, I'm so confused.
Yeah, and I'm always confused by because Shizuki is half Japanese, and
Yeah.
I'm married to a half Korean man. He is not blonde.
Yeah.
Half Asians are usually, look half Asian.
Yeah, they
So
usually look slightly. Yeah, again, my partner is half Filipino and half white, and I'm like, yeah, he looks Asian. Like, what?
like, yeah, the blonde hair, like if you do a genetic, you know, table, like it doesn't usually win out.
It's a recessive
so
gene. You know?
so yeah, the fact that Shizuki like is just like hyper white blonde guy is like very, how'd that happen to you? That's interesting. So it's like, and yeah, so they both are, blonde, blue eyed, very, very American.
Yes, very brash, as they said, unafraid to say what's on their mind. Usually. And yeah, like again, that's all fine, but yeah, like, ooh, wouldn't it have been cool if Julia was like black? That would have been awesome. Like, that's definitely what I come back to. And I don't know, it's just like, I get that they didn't want to make them Asian, right? Because Japan is so homogenous, and most visitors to Japan are from other Asian countries. Like, fine. They don't want the American character to look Asian. Fine. I'll accept that. But yeah, we definitely have a bunch of other skin tones and races and people in America that we could pull from here. So, like, that would have been cool. And overall, I just feel like even beyond those two characters within the manga, the way that Americans, like, they hear people speaking English and they're like, American. And I'm like, I don't, like, lots of other countries speak English, you know? Like, I'm going to need more context for why you think they're American, you know?
Yeah, and those Americans were drawn really like cartoony and weird.
Yeah, I was like, okay, all right. That's what I look like walking around Japan. That's what I'm thinking about that now, you know? And then, like, Mizuki is Japanese American, but, like, yeah, I think as you actually wrote in the notes, is like Mizuki. That's just an excuse for Mizuki to be kind of like say what's on her mind, more like forthcoming than perhaps a Japanese person would be. And it's also used for like comedic moments of her not knowing something culturally, right? Like,
Yeah. Like I think it also like helps in the Hokkaido arc where like she's really amazed by what she sees. It kind of frames it as like, she's a foreigner. She hasn't grown up in Japan.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I think like maybe being American almost helps her perform masculinity a little bit better because she can be, because that like very directness that she kind of has maybe can, I don't know. I don't know if it helps her in a certain way because
Like, it just helps her be more confident, carry herself more.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I was definitely like, I've been to Sapporo before, and I was like, I remember that clock tower. I'm Mizuki in this instance. But yeah, it would have been really cool. Like, okay, Shizuki, I don't know, they're gonna make him, like, they're gonna make him blonde, blue-eyed, half white person, fine. But I really think it would have been cool if Julia was, like black or Native American or something. Like, that would have just been like, oh yeah, like, let's go.
I feel like nowadays it would be more likely. Like I think because we have like oh gosh, what's that? There's the manga about the two exchange students who like befriend each other. Oh gosh, I need to remember the title of this. Sana and
I'm real bad at naming things. Yeah.
yeah, but there's this manga about like they're both exchange students and they bond together as their exchange students in America, and one's from Japan and one's from Saudi Arabia. And so, you get to see more kind of American diversity in this manga. So it's like, I think there's more of an awareness that America is not just white people here.
Yeah.
And so I feel like now there would be like a higher chance that, Julia would be depicted as something else. Just something else, anything else.
Anything else, really.
I mean, she comes from California. Like, there's so many groups of people that live in California, not just Valley Girls.
Yeah, she could have been like Mexican American. Like, come on.
She would have been cute.
She would have been cute. I know. Okay. Well, in light of doing another cross-dressing manga, I am bringing back the gender quiz. Are you ready?
Yes.
Fellow Ashley? Okay. So we are going to answer. This is free online gender quiz. I love this quiz very much. We will answer the questions as Mizuki, because she's the one trying to hide her gender. All right. So these are little statements, and then you either get to strongly disagree, neither, agree or disagree, agree, or strongly agree. So, statement 1. I frequently stand up for myself. I would put strongly agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Mizuki does not take crap from anybody. You say crap about a friend, she beats you up. I am considerate of others' feelings. I kind of lean towards agree because, like, she is, but then she struggles to follow through with the right plan, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't strongly agree, but yeah, agree. She definitely wants to be considerate of others' feelings.
She's trying. I am a natural leader. I don't really see Mizuki as a leader. She's like your good wingman.
Yeah, I'd put disagree. She's not like, I think she has some, I think she could be, but she just chooses not to. She's kind of going with the flow.
Yeah, like she could be a leader, but she's not a natural leader.
Yeah.
The key word here is natural, I think. Okay, I am known for my sense of humor. I'd put neither agree nor disagree, because I feel like when Mizuki is funny, it's like unintentionally, so you know? I consider myself brave.
I think she considers herself brave.
Yes.
Definitely.
I would strongly agree. I can sometimes be aloof or withdrawn.
I strongly disagree.
Strongly disagree. Okay, fair enough. I enjoy having a large circle of friends. Obviously, strongly agree.
Yeah, there's so many characters in this manga.
So many 50 jillion million characters that are happening here. I am confident in my own abilities. Strongly agree.
Yes.
I have a very logical mind. No, strongly disagree. This girl... This girl was like, I love this high jumper. I'm going to move halfway across the world. No. Gosh, no. I am a very creative person. I feel like we don't know enough. We've not given disagree?
Maybe just neither.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know very much about her creative abilities.
Yeah, she hasn't like gotten in a situation where that's necessary yet. I sometimes feel that I am experiencing emotions. Oh yes, this girl experiences. Strongly agree. I sometimes judge myself too harshly. I would lightly agree.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Sometimes she gets a little, wrapped up in her head and it's like, girl, it's not your fault. Society's garbage. I am generally an optimistic person. Oh, yes. Yeah. Overly optimistic. I am frequently confused. No, I wouldn't say that she is, actually.
Yeah, no.
I'd put disagree. Not strongly disagree, but like just plain old disagree. My body is made of meat. Yes.
Yes.
Strongly agree. My body is made of metal. No. Strongly disagree. My body is made of bits. This is a cartoon character. I'm gonna put neither. Disagree. My body is incorporeal or diffuse. No. I have questioned my gender identity. Like, she hasn't really.
Yeah, no, she's not questioning anything. She's just doing this because
She's just doing it. Overall, my friends have more gender than I do. No, they do not. They have less gender. I am all out of gender. No, Mizuki's got all of the gender. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and wonder where my life went so wrong. No, I would put lightly disagree. Like, sometimes she must be like, how did I get in this situation?
Yeah, she definitely thinks back on some of her choices sometimes, but she just kind of goes for it.
She's just like going with the flow, yeah. I have been made to feel unwelcome due to my perceived or actual gender. Well, yeah, because people are always like, that's a girl, and she's like, I'm a guy. And then they're like, you're a guy? And then they treat her all weird, you know? So, like, I'll lightly agree. I am an existential threat to organized human civilization due to my perceived or actual gender. I think so. Strongly agree.
Well, she is like a threat to the structure of the school.
Yeah, she's a threat to the structure of society. My body is a prison that I will one day transcend. I don't think she thinks her body is a prison, so I'm gonna have to strongly disagree on this one.
Yeah.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Yeah, like Nakatsu's dick. Agree. This isn't even my final form. Strongly agree. Based on nothing. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. Yes, that is definitely her attitude to going to an all-boys school where she is the only girl. I am ageless and undying. No, disagree. I have to disagree with that one. I am unstoppable. I simply cannot be stopped. Yes, strongly agree.
Yeah, that's her energy.
That's her whole energy, yes. Okay, I'm going to click the button. Okay, what gender am I? All right, your gender is Tubbs from Neko Atsuma. And it's just a picture of what I presume is Neko Atsuma, which is a cat, a little tubby cat laying down with a speck of food on its face. There we go. That is the gender of Mitsuki. We solved it. Glad we figured out this solution right here. All right. So this is just a very quick check-in mini shipping corner because I assume real shipping corner won't be until the 3rd episode. But, like, are you rooting for Sano and Mitsuki at this point?
I mean, is rooting even the right word for it? They're gonna...
You're like, it's just an inevitability. But, like, do you want it? Do you think they're cute?
Yes, I think they're cute. I think they're a cute little couple. I think they'll get there.
Okay. Do you wish for happiness for Nakatsu and Nanba? With who knows with whom, but, like, do you wish for their happiness with a partner?
Like, Nakatsu, I think, just needs to figure out what's going on in his head and just figure out that although he has a very strong love for Mizuki, she's just not gonna go for you, dude.
No.
So, and Nanba needs to just stop chasing after girls who don't want him.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, like, you know, he was sleeping with that girl and then he was like, yo, I can drop out of school and get a job and we can move in together. And she was like, oh, hell no. Just ghosted him so hard. I was like, you know, you as the adult technically in this situation made a real bad decision in sleeping with this boy. But, like, gosh, what a drama, you know, way to run away when it became, you know, you cut it off at the right time, at least.
Yeah, at least you knew to let this boy have his life.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Ugh. I can't wait to see what wacky couples reveal themselves.
Yes. Yeah, we're still early on, and there's we have so many volumes.
There's so much to go. All right. Well, yeah, so for now we're going to end it here. There's so much more Hana-Kimi to discuss. So thanks for listening to Shojo and Tell. Comments, questions, constructive criticism, concerns. Need to gush about your OTP or tell us why generally you really liked Hana-Kimi back in them great 90s. Largely, see, I was 0 to 10 years old in the 90s, and overall I'm like, I kind of forsake this decade. No, like, I will accept everything from 2000 and beyond. Anyway, email shoujoandtell@gmail.com or leave a comment on the episode's YouTube page. We're at Shojo and Tell on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Ashley, where can people find you and your work on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at manga_librarian, on YouTube as the Manga Librarian, or you can just find me at mangalibrarian.com. My content's mostly directed toward helping librarians, but I do yell about manga a lot, especially on Twitter. So on Twitter is more, you can just listen to me yell about manga.
Yeah, I think people are curious about manga in libraries. I feel like I see a lot people being like, why isn't there more digital manga in my libraries? Why does my library have this series but not another series? You know, people want to know how libraries work.
I have a video on that.
Yes, see, there we Great. Are you excited every time you see a new episode from us? If so, please consider leaving a rating on Apple Podcasts. This will help the podcast reach more hearts, or at least ears. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back next time for the middle third of Hana-Kimi. Hana-Kimi is getting 3 episodes. It's one of those special, really long shoujos, you know? I can't wait till someday I have to do, 4 episodes for a shoujo. We haven't hit that territory yet. This one's getting 3. So stay tuned. Until then, bye.
Bye.